OpenClaw v2026.4.11 just shipped. You can now import your entire ChatGPT conversation history directly into OpenClaw's Dreaming system. Plus, Teams gets reaction support, video generation gets adaptive aspect ratios, and there's a GPT 5.4 versus Opus 4.6 parity report. 15 contributors, 94 reactions from the community. This release was cut by Peter Steinberger on April 12, 2026, with contributions from 15 developers. It's the fifth major April release. OpenClaw is now shipping on a weekly cadence with no signs of slowing down. The headline feature is ChatGPT Import ingestion, which lets you bring your entire conversation history from ChatGPT directly into OpenClaw's memory and Dreaming system. This is a significant strategic feature because it directly addresses the biggest barrier to switching from ChatGPT to OpenClaw: the accumulated context and preferences you've built up over months or years of ChatGPT conversations. All of that knowledge can now transfer over and become part of OpenClaw's persistent memory. Beyond the import feature, the Control UI gets structured chat bubbles for richer media display, including voice directives and embedded content. Video generation tools get significant architectural upgrades with adaptive aspect ratios and audio references. Microsoft Teams and Feishu integrations go deeper with reaction support and document comment sessions. And there's a fascinating GPT 5.4 versus Opus 4.6 agentic parity report that compares model capabilities across shared evaluation scenarios with stricter evidence heuristics. The community response has been enthusiastic. 94 emoji reactions on the release page, which is the highest engagement ratio for any April release relative to the contributor count. The ChatGPT Import feature is the most user-requested addition in this release. You can now export your ChatGPT conversation history and ingest it directly into OpenClaw's Dreaming and Memory system. 2 new diary subtabs appear in the UI. Imported Insights shows the compiled knowledge extracted from your ChatGPT conversations, and Memory Palace displays the wiki-style pages that the Dreaming system generates from the imported data. This matters because many users have months or years of context built up in ChatGPT conversations: preferences, project histories, technical decisions, personal information the model has learned. Previously, switching to OpenClaw meant starting from zero. Now that context transfers over, the import pipeline processes source chats, extracts entities and facts, compiles them into structured pages, and integrates them into the existing Dreaming system where they participate in the same light, deep, and REM sleep cycles as natively collected memories. Your ChatGPT history becomes part of OpenClaw's persistent memory, enriched and consolidated over time just like any other knowledge source. Let's look at the release. The changelog covers feature additions, platform improvements, critical fixes, and contributor credits. The 94 emoji reactions show strong community validation. 15 contributors delivering features that users clearly wanted. The ChatGPT Import feature alone accounts for significant excitement, as it addresses the biggest barrier to switching from ChatGPT to OpenClaw: losing your accumulated conversation context. The video generation tools get several practical upgrades. URL-only asset delivery means generated videos can be referenced by URL rather than embedded inline, important for large files. Typed provider options give developers explicit control over generation parameters. Audio input references let you feed existing audio as context for video generation. Per asset role hints tell the system whether an asset is background, overlay, or primary content. And adaptive aspect ratio support with increased image input capacity means the system handles portrait, landscape, and square content natively rather than forcing everything into one format. On the UI side, structured chat bubbles represent a significant visual upgrade. Instead of plain text responses, assistant outputs now render structured media, reply references, and voice directives as distinct visual elements. The new Embed Rich Output tag lets the agent include external content with configurable URL gating for security, so the agent can embed content but administrators control which external sources are allowed. Microsoft Teams gets reaction support, both sending and reading reactions, with graph pagination for handling large conversation histories, and delegated OAuth specifically for the reaction sending path, while preserving application auth for reading. Feishu, the Chinese enterprise messaging platform, gets enhanced document comment sessions with richer context parsing, comment reactions, and typing feedback that makes interactions feel more chat-like. Plugin manifests can now declare activation and set up descriptors, describing required auth and configuration without relying on hard-coded core special cases. This makes plugin onboarding more self-documenting and reduces the core code base burden of knowing about every plugin's requirements. The Olama provider gets a practical performance optimization, caching of model metadata and context window data during discovery, which significantly reduces the repeated API calls that were slowing down the model picker interface on every single refresh. For users with many local Olama models, this makes the picker noticeably faster and more responsive. And the GPT 5.4 versus Opus 4.6 agentic parity report is worth exploring if you're choosing between providers. It documents shared scenario coverage with stricter evidence heuristics to give a fair, reproducible comparison. The most impactful fix addresses OpenAI Codex OAuth scope rewriting that was causing invalid scope failures. A showstopper for anyone connecting through the Codex provider that was just added in v2026.4.11. If you tried the Codex integration last week and got authentication errors, this fix resolves that completely. Audio transcription gets selective DNS pinning disabled for OpenAI-compatible requests, fixing connectivity issues in certain network configurations. macOS Talk Mode gets proper microphone permission handling. The experimental local MLX speech provider introduced in v2026.4.11 had issues requesting mic access on some system configurations, and this ensures the permission prompt fires correctly. Agent Run TTS audio now persists correctly in web chat history, meaning voice replies remain playable after page refreshes instead of disappearing. WhatsApp fixes cover 3 separate issues: default account registration for first-time setup, message reaction gateway routing for the new reaction system, and inbound image attachment path preservation that was causing some received images to not display. Telegram gets topic-scoped session initialization, ensuring that conversations in topic-organized groups maintain separate session state. And the agent timeout enforcement in the LLM idle watchdog is tightened to prevent silent hangs during long tool use chains. If a model stops responding mid-task, the watchdog now catches it faster and triggers the recovery path instead of waiting indefinitely. Standard update. Run OpenClaw update and check your version. No breaking changes means no migration needed. If you want to import your ChatGPT history, the new import feature is available in the Dreaming settings. Export your ChatGPT data from OpenAI's settings page. Point OpenClaw at the exported file, and it processes every conversation into the memory system automatically. The 2 new diary subtabs, Imported Insights and Memory Palace, let you inspect what was extracted and how it was compiled before it starts participating in dream cycles. For Teams users, the reaction support is available immediately after the update. For plugin developers, the new activation and setup descriptor system means you can now properly self-document your plugin's requirements without relying on core special case handling. That's OpenClaw v2026.4.11. Your entire ChatGPT conversation history can now feed directly into OpenClaw's Dreaming and Memory system, the 5th major April release from a community that ships weekly and keeps accelerating. Full release notes are in the description. Subscribe to Prism Labs for every OpenClaw release as it drops.